Welcome to Biology My Passion. I am Soumya Harikrishna. We are dealing with the chapter How do organisms reproduce. Last class I just gave you some introduction of this chapter and we discussed the variations happening in organisms. And I told if the variations are minor and the niche is not changing drastically, the organisms can survive. But there are two situations which can be detrimental. That is, niche is changing drastically and organism is not changing. Or the second case is the organism is changing drastically but niche is not changing. So in both these cases, variations if not happening that can affect the survival of the species. But even then, if the variation is happening to only one or two members of this population, it cannot help the species survival. But if a group of organisms in that species is having some variations to adjust with the environment, then the survival will be better. For example, in the case of bacteria, if you consider a group of bacteria, in them a few bacteria have undergone some changes or variations with which they can afford to live in high temperature. So in such cases, if there is a rise in environmental temperature by global warming or something, those variants will survive. So later their colonies can develop. But if it is for one individual and all, it won't help the species. So having said that, now we will discuss the different types of reproduction. As we all know, basically there are two types of reproduction, sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. So in this chapter, we will be discussing different means of asexual reproduction first, and then we will be discussing the sexual reproduction in flowering plants and human beings. So first let us discuss what are the main differences between sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. So first thing is, in asexual reproduction only a single parent is involved, whereas in sexual reproduction two parents are involved. So there is no fertilization happening in case of asexual reproduction. Fertilization happens in case of sexual reproduction. And there are specialized cells called gametes formed in sexual reproduction which are not formed in asexual reproduction. And variations are very less in asexual reproduction which are very high in sexual reproduction. So since variations are less, chance of evolution is also less in asexual, chance of evolution is high in sexual reproduction. And asexual reproduction takes place in lower organisms like yeast, amoeba, spirogyra, etc. Whereas higher organisms have sexual mode of reproduction. And it is a complex and a time-taking process when we talk about sexual reproduction, whereas asexual reproduction is rather fast and simple process. So these are the main differences between sexual and asexual reproduction. So now let us discuss different means of asexual reproduction. So in this chapter we have to study asexual reproduction happening in both unicellular organisms and simple multicellular organisms. So these are the methods that we are going to study. The first one, fission, which is otherwise called a cell division, is a means of reproduction in unicellular organisms. So in case of unicellular organisms, when they are growing means they are dividing. At the same time, their reproduction is also by cell division. So both are interrelated. So fission or the cell division is the means of reproduction in unicellular organisms. When it comes to other simple multicellular organisms, they undergo different means like fragmentation, regeneration, budding, vegetative propagation and spore formation. Now let us discuss these one by one in detail. Let us discuss the first method which is happening in unicellular organisms, is fission or cell division. So first, there are different types of fission. First is called a binary fission. The second type is called a multiple fission. So what is the difference between binary fission and multiple fission? Here we know that one cell divides into daughter cells. So the cell which is undergoing division is usually called the mother cell, and the newly formed cells are called daughter cells. So if one cell divides into two daughter cells, then that is called a binary fission, which happens in amoeba. Bacteria also undergo binary fission, and another organism called a leishmania has a binary fission. Whereas in case of an organism called Plasmodium, several daughter cells will be forming through the division of the mother cell. In such case, it is called a multiple fission. So let us see one by one in detail. Binary fission, as I told, one cell divides into two daughter cells. So in case of amoeba, here the steps are like this. So whenever a cell is dividing, it divides in two phases. First the nucleus divides, that is called a karyokinesis. Karyo means nucleus, kinesis means division, division of nucleus. Followed by that cytoplasm divides. Is there any problem if first the cytoplasm divides then nucleus? Just think about it for a while. Yes, if first the cytoplasm divides or the cell divides, then one cell will have nucleus, the other daughter cell will be devoid of nucleus. That will not survive. So, to avoid that, always first the nucleus should divide and then only the cytoplasm divides. So, let us see here, these are the stages in sequence. So, first is a unicellular amoeba. You know, amoeba does not have any rigid shape. In the second stage, you can see the nucleus is slightly elongating prior to division. Meanwhile, there is a constriction appearing in the plasma membrane. Then the nucleus completely divides into two. By the time the constriction deepens and it will touch and divide the cell ultimately into two new daughter cells with one nucleus each. These are the stages of division in amoeba, that is binary fission. So here, since amoeba does not have any shape or it does not have any other structures attached to the surface, the division can take place in any plane. Whereas, when we talk about another unicellular organism called the Leishmania, it is longitudinal binary fission taking place. That means this Leishmania has got a whiplash-like flagellum at one end. So if a division takes place horizontally, it will not give us two daughter cells, or they are not going to be equal, one with the flagellum, one without flagellum. So there should be only one single plane of division, that is through the vertical plane. So we call it as longitudinal binary fission. Here, first the vertically when it is dividing, even the flagellum also divides, so that the two daughter cells are having flagellum each. Now, when we come to this, the second case, that is, but here both are binary fission only, because from one finally two daughter cells are produced. But when it comes to plasmodium, where multiple fission occurs, so here plasmodium is actually the one which is causing malaria. Its life cycle happens within human host as well as mosquito. The sexual phase is happening, or the fertilization is happening within the mosquito body, and the asexual phase is happening in human beings. So when they multiply asexually, they undergo division through multiple fission. So here what happens is, there will be a hard covering forming around the cell, unicellular structure, and inside the nucleus first divides into many, forming a multinucleate structure. So here what happens, once the nucleus divides, immediately the cytoplasm divides, but that step is lacking here. Here the nucleus first divides into two, 2 become 4, 4 into 8, 16, like that they multiply. After complete multiplication of the nucleus only, each nucleus will acquire some cytoplasm around it, making a wall, making many daughter cells inside. Meanwhile, as I told, there is a hard covering also. This hard covering is called a cyst. So there are two functions of having cyst or having large number of offsprings. The first is, since it is having a thick wall, it can tide over or it can survive in adverse conditions. For example, in the host, the conditions may not be suitable. So that is a protective covering. And the second advantage of this is, whenever the reproduction happens, since the offsprings are large in number, at least a few will survive at the end. Even if some of them die, a few will be still surviving. So ensures the survival of the offsprings. So this same two reasons, that is, one is the formation of thick wall to protect from unfavorable condition. Second, to ensure the survival of at least a few offsprings. These two advantages are common for spore formation, which we will learn later. Okay. Then the next case is about budding. So we are learning about budding in multicellular organism later. Here in yeast, it is like a cell division only, but the difference is, here just a cell equally divided into two, but in case of yeast, which is a unicellular fungus, you all must have seen yeast. You can check in the kitchen. Your parents will have a stock of it most probably in the fridge. So you can check out for this because we use it in several preparations. So here, first what happens, a small outgrowth will form, that is called a bud. Since there is a small outgrowth forming in the beginning of division, it is called a budding. Okay. So first a small outgrowth forms, then the same stages, nucleus extends. Here what I have drawn is a vacuole present in the cell. Then the nucleus divides into two nuclei, followed by that the bud gets detached. So later stage the bud can go away from the mother cell. But sometimes before the first bud gets detached, another bud will form over that. Another bud will form over that. So this condition is called a chain budding, which is also common in yeast. So this is all about fission or the reproduction happening in unicellular organisms. Now let us discuss the types of asexual reproduction in multicellular organisms. A method of asexual reproduction happening in organisms like Spirogyra is fragmentation. Spirogyra is an algae. Algae means it's coming under plant kingdom, division Thallophyta. They have cell wall, chloroplast, they are photosynthetic, aquatic. They are called pond silk or pond scum because they are very viscous in nature and they have fine thread-like structures. So if you see one filament of this Spirogyra, it is an elongated thread-like structure which is unbranched. Though it is multicellular structure, the cells are connected end to end like chains, or we can say the bogie of a train, how they are connected end to end. The organism is, there is no branching or no other complication. And what you are seeing here is green color is the chloroplast. So because of this spiral shaped chloroplast, it got the name Spirogyra. The type of asexual reproduction is fragmentation, and fragmentation is the mode of reproduction in which the body just fragments into a few pieces upon maturation. That means once the body matures, then when they are about to reproduce, what happens? The body will simply break up into a few fragments. Okay, but each fragment will again divide the cells to become one complete Spirogyra. So how many fragments are forming? Those many new Spirogyra we obtain. Just like imagine a long train, we are dismantling some bogies and we are attaching a few to make a different trains. Okay, the same way. Or suppose this is a Spirogyra with a few cells. So maybe one cell is getting split here, another one here, another one here, like that. So a few fragments we got. Each one, now the cell can divide into 2, 2 into 4, like that. This will also divide, this will divide, this will divide. Finally we get many Spirogyra. Usually there comes a doubt for the students. What is the difference between fission and fragmentation? Here the thing is, it's not happening within a cell. In the case of fission, the division was happening, cell division. Here it's not cell division. Initially the fragmentation of different groups of cells. They are not going to be equal number of cells, right? But each one later only by division they will extend the length. So that's the main difference. Now another question is, if a Spirogyra can reproduce through a simple mechanism like just fragmenting and growing into a new individual, can't we do that? Imagine we are all just fragmenting and each one is growing into a new individual like us. It is not possible. The reason is, as I mentioned earlier, though it is multicellular organism, there is no complexity here. They are just arranged cells end to end. But in our case, there is a definite organization of the body. Cells are organized into tissues, tissues into organs, organs into organ system into organism. So cell by cell division is not possible. Suppose my muscles are multiplying, I'll get new muscles only. I am not going to get neurons or blood cells or anything like that, right? So that's why multicellular organisms, all multicellular organisms or the organisms with a complex body design cannot undergo fragmentation. So now let us see regeneration. So examples are Plasmodium and Hydra. Hydra we will study in budding also. It is coming under regeneration as well. So we will discuss how this is happening in Plasmodium. So suppose there is a Plasmodium and you are little naughty and you are coming and cutting it into 3 pieces. Okay. So the planaria has been cut into 3 pieces. Now what happens? To your surprise, this planaria will reproduce the lost part. So instead of 1, now it became 3. So this is what is happening. This is possible because of specialized cells in them, that is called the regenerative cells or proliferative cells. These proliferative cells are the cells which are capable of multiplying rapidly. So the lowest part can be regenerated using continuous multiplication and the whole organisms can regenerate. So this also happens in case of hydra, or in starfish also this is possible. At least some children would say in lizards, but in lizard it is a part of defense mechanism. Here we are talking about the method of reproduction. Okay, so that's about a regeneration. But here comes another question. Can we consider regeneration as a sole method of reproduction? The answer is no, because here the reproduction is dependent on an external force. Somebody has to come and cut for it so that it can regenerate. So no organism can wait for being cut in order to reproduce. It should happen naturally in order to survive or maintain the species. So in such cases, this is not the sole method of reproduction. So you may think, what about Plasmodium? Even Plasmodium has got different methods of asexual reproduction. It's not only depending on this, depending on the environmental conditions, if it is favorable or unfavorable and all, they will have different methods. They switch to different mechanisms. So next method is budding. Example, Hydra. So Hydra is a coelenterate which is an attached form. These are the tentacles of Hydra. Here, from the body of the adult Hydra, a small bud comes out. Here it is not like the bud in yeast which was unicellular. Here it is a multicellular structure which grows on the mother's body into a baby Hydra. But after it attains a particular growth, then it gets detached, falls on the ground, and there it will grow into a new baby Hydra. This is also because of the specialized cells which can multiply or proliferate. That is why it is called a budding.
The next method of asexual reproduction that we are going to discuss is vegetative propagation. So in vegetative propagation, it is nothing but the asexual reproduction in plants. We are propagating. Propagate means what? Multiplying plants using vegetative parts. Vegetative parts means other than the flower, that is root, stem, leaf, etc. So vegetative propagation naturally happens in plants. So that is called a natural vegetative propagation. But because of certain advantages of vegetative propagation, we implement this method in crop improvement programs. So that is called the artificial vegetative propagation methods. So in your textbook, the details are not given about artificial propagation, but I'll just touch upon the different types of artificial propagation methods. They are cutting, layering, and grafting. The first method is cutting. In cutting, what we do, we just take the stem and cut it into different pieces and plant them in the soil. Within a few days, roots start appearing from the base of the stem, and the rest of the parts, the upper parts grow up, right? So here, certain plants are there. For example, hibiscus or rose. Suppose I am coming to your house and I am finding a beautiful rose plant there. I wish I had a plant like that. So I am asking you, can you provide me with a new plant of this? Then you are telling me, okay ma'am, I will give you. The moment I get the seeds ready, I will give you. But I know there is no seed produced by this hibiscus or rose. In such plants, what can we do? We can go for stem cutting. So here it is advantageous. If you have a long stem, you can cut it into different pieces with a sharp knife, and then you can plant them so that the new plants are ready. So here you can see in this picture, almost 4 plants are planted together. So that is the first method, cutting. Simply cutting the stem into different pieces and we are growing them. The next method is called a layering. So as you are seeing in the picture, layering means we are covering a piece of the part of the stem with mud. So this is done usually used in plants like a jasmine. Here you can see one of the base stems is bent down and it is bent under the soil. Then the rest of the part, the tip of the plant is again up. So that covered part will start growing a new plant within a short period of time. Later we can cut it and plant it separately. So this can happen naturally also, like in plants like jasmine, when the lower branches touch the soil, a new plant can grow from there. The second picture what you are seeing is air layering. So the first method is called mound layering, second is air layering, where if it is a tree, we cannot bend the stem down to the soil. So instead we remove a thin layer of the skin from outside without disturbing the vascular bundles, and then we keep a little moist substances like maybe coir or mud to retain the moisture, and then we wrap it properly. Within a few days, a new plant will grow from that side that can be planted separately later. So these methods are called layering. It's used in guava, jasmine, etc. Third method is grafting. Graft means what? In our body, if you take organ from some other donor, we call it as a graft. So here, grafting means we are joining two different plants. Suppose you have two plants in your orchard, maybe two mango trees. One is giving you good fruit, the other one is disease resistant. If you want to combine these two plants, you will take the base of the disease resistant plant, and that is called the stalk. You cut it little above the soil level, and another shoot from the high yielding variety will be fixed on the stalk. That is called a scion. Okay, then we tie it again with some coir or a mud to retain the moisture, and within a few days they both join together, and once we remove the tying, we will see the tissues are joined and it is growing as a new plant. But depending on the cut, there are different types of grafting methods. The method shown in this picture is wedge grafting. The stalk is cut as a wedge shaped structure, and the scion is cut very sharp so that it can fit inside the wedge. Here in the first picture you can see a slanting cut is made. So they both can fix each other. You have to tie it for some time and the parts will join. So a slanting cut is made. Then the second picture you can see within one wedge two scions are kept. Stalk is one, but since it is broad, two small scions can be fitted. Then the third type is called a T-budding. In T-budding, you can see on the bark we have made a T-shaped cut and pulled it open. To that we have inserted a small bud. Now the bud will grow from there. That is called a T-budding. So these are different methods of grafting. So grafting is mainly used for combining two different plants together to inculcate both the qualities into one plant. Why are we exploiting this in vegetative propagation in agricultural field? Because it has got certain advantages. So this is a very important 3-mark question for you. Plants raised by vegetative propagation can bear flowers and fruits earlier than those produced from seeds. We know, suppose you are collecting the seed, it will take a lot of time for the seed to come out of the soil. That's very small seedling. Then again it will take time to grow and produce other parts. But in the grafting or cutting or layering, we are actually growing from already existing plants, so the time taken will be less. Then also certain plants like banana, orange, rose, jasmine, they have lost their ability to produce seeds. We cannot wait for them to produce seeds because they don't produce seeds. So in such plants, how can we propagate? We have to use artificial methods only, right? Then the third one, since we are developing the new plants from an existing plant part, the new plants are exactly similar or identical to the parent plant. It's just a part of that parent plant we are propagating. So suppose you have a very good plant, identical copies can be made using vegetative propagation. So 3 points, 3 marks, it's very important question. Now next is propagation through leaves. It is also another example of vegetative propagation. It happens in a plant called a bryophyllum. In bryophyllum, as you can see, the margin of the leaf has got certain notches in them. Each notch has got a small leaf bud present. Later, when the leaf falls off from the plant, each bud will grow and they grow as a new independent plant. Then the last method mentioned in your textbook is spore formation. Spore is nothing but a naked embryo. It is surrounded by a hard covering. There is no cotyledon, nothing. A baby plant or naked embryo with a hard covering. So it's actually vegetative spores are there, or a sexual spore. Spores are produced by lower organisms like fungi. Here we are studying the example of Rhizopus, which is a bread mold. You know, if you are keeping bread in a very moist place with a warm condition, within a few days you will see white cottony appearance. Then white will turn into greenish, and after that green will turn into black once it starts producing spores. So since it is growing on bread, we call it as bread mold also. Mold is this Rhizopus fungus. So here the plant body or the body of a fungus is just like a thread called a hypha. One thread is called a hypha. Several threads are there producing an entangled cottony mass that's called a mycelium. At the time of reproduction, from that branch will come up. That is, you can see here blob on a knob-like structure, means like lollipop-like structures are popping up, and each one is called a sporangium. That stalk is called a sporangiophore, and the bulb-like structure at the tip is called a sporangium. Sporangium means spore producing structure. Within that, millions of spores are produced. Then the sporangium breaks open, liberating the spores, and the spores, when they fall on suitable place with the moisture and warm condition, they develop into a new plant, a new fungus. So this is how reproduction happens in Rhizopus. Now in a box in the textbook there is given some mention about tissue culture, which is an advanced technology helping in propagation of plants in a large number. That means if you have a very small part of a plant, you don't require a seed or any other part, a small piece of the tip of the plant, that is meristematic region, if you get, you can grow them in nutrient medium. So in the first picture you can see inside the test tube there is a jelly like substance that is nothing but agar. Agar is a gel, or we are making it for making jelly and all. Okay, so the agar we obtain from algae. Okay, so this agarose gel medium, in that we add all the nutrients required for the plant, because here we are not giving soil, so nutrients have to be provided. In that nutrient medium, if we put that small piece that we collected from a plant, within a few days it will grow into a mass of tissue, means a lump of tissue. Then we call it as callus. Then that callus can be cut into many small pieces, and each one will be transferred into different nutrient medium, and those many new plants we get, and all are identical to each other. So it is otherwise called a micropropagation. Within a small period of time, we can produce hundreds of identical plants using this method. In our country, we produce banana and other vegetables like tomato, strawberry, all can be produced using this method. Okay, so this is very effective. Within short period of time, we can make a large number of plants identical to each other. But only thing is that it is done in vitro. In vitro means it is done in the lab condition, where we have to provide all the optimum condition, and setting up a lab is also not that easy. It's a sophisticated lab, and we should know the proper technique for growing the plants. Okay, so with this, all the different methods of asexual reproduction we have completed. So if you have any doubt, you can post in the comment section. And if you like my videos, please like, share and subscribe to my channel, Biology My Passion.